Sale Hi.
I'm Maccabe's Mohajer.
Welcome to the Doctor and Devil's Advocate.
This is the doctor, and I'm the devil's advocate.
So, just a few days ago, don't know if you guys saw this story, in the European Union, the Polish member of parliament gets up, and you won't believe this, he actually gets up and he says that, quote, women are weaker, they're smaller, and less intelligent. And because of this, they should simply and justly earn less money as it related to the pay gap in Europe.
Wow.
Now, as soon as he sat down, a member from Spain, who's a woman, stands up and says, well, by the same logic, then you are intimidated by the fact that someone like me has equal rank to you in this union and in this parliament.
Interesting.
And got blasted. Can you believe that there's people like this today?
There are people
in
like
Europe
this. Absolutely.
that have this concept?
Well, just the only thing about, absolutely. I believe that there is a lot of people that feel that there is this superiority. Look at most of the Middle East truly believes that way. And so when they give a little bit of power to the ladies, what happens is, it just escalates into, I believe that the men are afraid, because I believe that the women are actually stronger than men in a variety, and I'm not talking about physically, but in a variety of different ways. And you look at the fact that regardless of our discussions on God and this and that and whatnot, but we cannot dispute the fact that the female species brings the child into the world, right? And goes through all that pain to accomplish that. And so I believe that by itself is an unbelievable task that I don't believe most men could be able to handle. You carry a child within your,
I agree with you.
For 9 months, and then you have to, most of them try to go through, normal childbirth. So I think it's absolutely psychotic and backward for people to think that basically
But
that men are stronger than women from that perspective.
But
obviously from the power perspective, yes.
But this guy, this member, his name was Jonas Corwin-Mikke.
Yes.
And he states that the evidence he has for why it is that women are less intelligent and weaker is because that none of them placed in the top 800 of the Olympiad in the Olympics for physics, and none of them.
Is that him calling you right now?
It is. He wants to know why I'm bad.
Mr. Mickey's calling.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
None of them placed in the top 800, and then none of them are in the top 100 chess players. That's his evidence for why women are weaker.
Well,
now you are not. I would like you to rebuttal that. Not from the childbearing perspective, but that's what his perspective is as far as some form of a academic perspective.
It is a fantastic point that you brought up. And you, from an academia perspective, I like to talk about, what is your opinion of that?
Well, I think women...
As somewhat of a child prodigy, and now in your more adult years, having so many degrees and being gone through years and years and years. I look at your sister and she's incredibly smart. So is it, and I know we're segueing to a variety of different thoughts, but it's all related. Is it nurture versus nature? Is it that, okay, if you take a brother and a sister that are testing the same way and give the same opportunity, what are the results going to be? Is a female going to not progress as well simply because she's a female? Or no, she might progress more? Or is a male going to... So what is your opinion of that? Because I know you've really looked into this.
I believe that there are differences when it comes to male and females. Not that it is necessarily my personal belief, but I do know that anatomically there are differences.
Of course.
No. Not just on a sexual level, but
from a brain perspective.
From a cranial level and from a hormonal level, there are differences, and those differences are not necessarily pro or against the formulation of academic perception or the variability of being able to perform on a higher level.
Yes.
But it does make it so that the way you interpret information and execute information is different.
Well, it's funny that the Polish guy talks about this because of the fact that he's talking about his evidence is chess.
Right.
Okay, chess was a game that was made, so it's all subject to. They were, remember back in the day, they were talking about these tests were really prejudicial towards a certain part of society that did not have those privileges or didn't have those knowledges, didn't understand how those things work. And so that's the same thing. That how do you truly judge? Like the guy in India who finds an old math book and starts doing extrapolations and
Let me answer
crazy,
your question.
right?
You're right.
So that guy had no. It was. Is there such a thing as innate knowledge, and does that have to do with race or sex?
Well, that's I mean, yes.
That's a different topic for a different year.
Yeah, but I want to go back to the thing with men and women.
Yes.
I personally believe that every different instrument that you use, assuming that each gender is an instrument, is played differently. You can make beautiful music, let's say on a violin, you can make beautiful music on a saxophone. One's a wind instrument, one's a string instrument. One's not better than the other, but you can utilize them differently.
Okay.
I believe that through the proper training of both male and female, and that training I think would be different. You can create two individuals that are equally capable, equally on par on different scales of intelligence, and are equally capable of performing a task to excellence. So yes. I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question as to how it can be. I think that the way that you approach it should be a little bit different as far as educational perspective is concerned, but the outcome can be the same.
I think my opinion of this subject is this, that there is a equality in how these individuals or part of society, or male or female, are created. I don't believe there is an intelligent advantage innate within a male or a female. And I do believe that everything is subject to development based on what's given and not given.
I agree with you, and I'll give you one before we agree to agree.
We want to close this up.
I'll give you one piece of research to support your topic.
Please, you're the research guy.
To support your concept.
You're the research guy. I like to hear this.
There was a research study done wherein they put two people in a position where they went on a virtual trip. And in that trip, they later on asked the man and the woman, how did you get from point A to point B?
Yes.
The man was able to say, I took multiple lefts, multiple rights, went straight, and came to the
Did he ask for directions?
yeah, exactly. Well, he was supposed to recite the directions. Exactly. The woman said, well, I remember that we passed a Kmart and a gas station, then we turned somewhere where there was a really pretty house. So both of them were able to, not just both of them, but both of
different levels of landmarks.
Right. Both of the groups of genders ended up showing this type of perception, but differently. Yes. And both of them were able to recite it, but they interpreted the information differently.
Yes.
Different but equal. And both got different results. So that goes to support
basically, we believe that there is equality, and whatever has happened simply because of circumstances that were, in other words, when this female child was born or this male child was born, one was not innately better than the other because of the fact that they were a male or a female, that all those things came about due to whatever happened in their life. Well, so in this case, we can come back to it at a later date, but right now we agree on this subject.
Very good. So
we agree on this subject.
We do.
Okay, go ahead.
Monogamy.
Oh, fantastic. Monopoly. I love it. I'm very good at it.
Is it something that exists now?
Monopoly?
And should it exist in the future?
I'm very good at Monopoly.
And where did it come from?
I'm very good at Monopoly.
I know you are.
Talking about monogamy, that's a major issue.
Well, it goes into this topic.
Let's go.
The concept of why men are the way they are and women are the way they are originates from monogamy.
This is going to be a good one. I'd like to get your...
Okay, so let's talk about research first. Recent research study showed that one of the reasons that monogamy was created even 100,000 years ago was simply because at the time when there was not monogamy, there was a high rate, first of all, of infant mortality and of sexually transmitted diseases. So what would happen is, as the brain capacity of children would grow, they would require more attention from the mother. And because the mother would have to give more attention to the kid, they had less time to give attention to other males who wanted to have sex with the female. The males would become jealous of the kids, and they'd kill the kids, and also bring harm to the mother. So what would end up happening is, in addition to the multiple partners, these STDs that we are dealing with today have existed for over 100,000 years. And that spread of that disease would also create lower longevity, both for the parents and then for the ones that transmit to the kids. So because of this, social contracts were created whereby the man and the woman would say, okay, for the sake of the kid and our health, we're going to now, because of this evolution from brain development, create a union so that we then protect our future and protect our DNA.
That's a very avant-garde way of looking at it.
Well, it's a research study that I'm simply...
Yeah, it's amazing what you're saying. What's funny is that system, minus the jealousy, 100% mirrors pride of lions on the plains of Africa. That when there are male lions, that usually 1 to 2, that rule a pride with an alpha, male, and what happens is that this is the ruler of the pride and gets the first pick of the meat and the first pick of the ladies and so on and so forth. And when the lions in that pride, the male lions, reach 2 or 3, they're run off. So usually in pairs they go and they try to find other prides to push in on and then fight and kill or run off the leader of the other pride, the male, okay? And once they come in, and here's the unbelievable thing, once this lion kicks out this lion who had this pride, the first thing they do is kill all the babies.
That's right, yeah.
Simply because then there is no more milk, that the milk dries up for the mother who was feeding at that point, and she goes right into heat, so that male could have his kids come into existence. So it's an interesting, you're talking about, it's copies that to a certain extent. Now, you're talking about the guys become jealous because of a lack of sexual attention by the female. In this scenario, it's not the sexual attention, that lion has the instinctual urge for his gene and DNA to go forward, and that's why it kills, and it is an horrific sight. Kills these babies and then obviously impregnates the female and so on and so forth.
And it's similar also with silverback gorillas. Exactly the same.
Yes.
So, but my question to you is, where do you stand on this? We see where it came.
You're going to ask me this? You're going to get me in trouble with all the ladies? Hey, ladies! No.
We see where it started from, and these kind of societal social contracts create dispositions, because then the woman is now a childbearer. It is someone who is now has a role to fulfill, to be able to bring this child to fruition. For 9 months, she needs support. Then that support has to come from someone who's bringing the food. Then that someone is now obligated to stay to protect the kid because of that social contract. So as we move forward 100,000 years, different constructs such as marriage are created. Those constructs then create what are perceived to be weakness roles for women and strength roles for men, as we are now talking about in today, for example, women in politics, women in power. So if you want to change it, does that change, first of all, affect monogamy? Should monogamy change? And what should be the future of marriage?
Okay, that's a brilliant point you bring up. The thing about monogamy is that to a certain extent, to a large extent, it doesn't exist. Okay, and for the most part, from a male point of view, it's a lot less, enforced upon themselves. Males, possibly they step out a little bit more than the females, and society looks at it from that point of view. That I do believe that there is still those gentlemen that don't cheat on their wives, okay, but for the most part I believe they do. Okay, now there's different levels of that, whether they just have girlfriends or mistresses or whatever, what those reasons are, that's a subsection to this conversation. You're speaking about a much broader, not an emotional perspective of, oh my God, you owe me the fact that me and you are together forever, because men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and whether you believe it or not, it's all about the penis. The bottom line is that that's the important issue, that the buildup is different. Where if you ask a female that this guy, would you want to be with him forever? And she says it, for the most part, she really believes it in her being. And even if the guy says, yes, I do, in the back of him is that, oh my God, he's not choosing her. In his male perspective, because of our preoccupation with sexuality, I believe, a man looks at the situation and says, I'm choosing her over every other woman in the world.
I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not a choice of, is this the person I want to be with forever? You're saying, is this person better than everyone else?
Okay.
Simply because there's going to be supposedly no one else, and then after a while realizes he can't handle that, so he steps out on her.
But I believe that the same urges for infidelity, as you coin it.
It's a lot less in females,
Yeah.
if that's what you're getting at.
No. Okay.
It's a lot less in female. I 100%.
Fine.
Why are you looking like you're perturbed?
Well, because I would challenge that concept. I would say that as we are now moving forward and progressing, infidelity has risen immensely in females. As a matter of fact, this entire concept of female empowerment has given also women the power to, I believe, to be able to do the same thing, because as there are more resources, both financial resources, independent resources, those options also become available.
Would you like to know my opinion?
Well, I haven't asked for it yet, but go ahead. Yes.
Let me give
I was in the middle of my opinion.
You made your dissertation. Everyone got it. You're saying that the women are now becoming more
empowered to choose.
Exactly. Now here's my point. I believe women are simply fed up with men cheating all the time.
But you're assuming that the man cheated first. That's incorrect.
I am backed by evidence of 99.99% of men that I've known in the 51 years I've been in this planet existence.
I don't know what that evidence is, but
all the guys that I know that were married that cheated on their wives, and the wives that I didn't believe did cheat on them. Okay. But what I'm thinking, what's happening is all those things you're saying are true, in the sense that might be on the rise. But I think it's on the rise because the woman is saying, what am I doing waiting for this guy? I could either ruin my life, uproot the kids, finish everything, right? And go out with 2 or 3 kids and try to find someone else to come and take care of me. Or I can just be like him.
Okay,
for him not to know, and for me to go fool around and be happy in this supposed fake environment I've created.
Excellent. That's micro. Let's take it on a macro level. Okay. Back to the first topic, which was the concept of monogamy and the concept of why monogamy was created. If we now treat the symptoms, if we look at this as a doctor and say, okay, we were taking this pill. The pill was for this reason. The reason was, the fact of the matter is STDs and infant mortality. Okay. At the time, the only pill we had was monogamy. And then later on marriage.
They gave him, yes, okay.
Now we have a new pill. We can say, hey, we're going to use contraception. We're going to use prophylactics. And we're going to be able to secure our kids with education, with police protection, with moral guidance, with community protection. Okay. So we now create a barrier for those symptoms that existed. Therefore, now we start to move past monogamy. And we say, listen, we no longer need that because we can make sure we safeguard the kids and their future.
Okay. I believe, my friend, that we 100% need monogamy. And let me explain to you why. If you figure there's 8 billion people in the world, right? Let's say 4 billion men, 4 billion women. You go to those 4 billion men and you ask them, do you mind if your girlfriend or your wife has someone else on the side? They might kill you on the spot. If not, they would have a real problem with it. Okay. So that means that from the male perspective, now whether it's a double standard, I'm not looking at that. I'm just simply saying that you ask any guy, are you okay with your wife being with another man? The answer is going to be no. Right. That there's no freaking way I allow that to happen.
But that's today. This concept that we're talking about has evolved over 100,000 years.
Okay, you're telling me what's going to happen I think in 100,000 years you don't even have sex. You just look at the guy in your mind and you reach orgasm and you walk away. So you can have sex 5,000 times a day without.
No, that's not jump forward 100,000.
That's what you just said.
No, you're not letting me say what I want to say.
Because that's why the show works. Because I do a lot of talking and you just sit here. Go ahead.
I'm saying let's look at this thing in terms of generations. If we look at a millennial generation,
let's see if you can do it now.
If we look at a millennial generation, you look at 1,000 years. But if we're looking at a century, I'm saying even within the next century. Okay. Is it possible that 100 years from now?
Let's say 50 years from now. Right? Well, okay, 100 years.
Because I said 100 years from now.
That's fine. No, I'm not a contrarian.
We're looking in the 22nd century.
Okay.
Will there be such a thing as monogamy? How would we dismantle it? If it were to be dismantled, would it be so bad?
These are fantastic points and the questions, and it leads me to the final topic of today, which
so you want to answer the question?
I'm gonna answer you, but I'm gonna set up the final topic, which is that I believe that you can never say never, and you can never speak okay, from a black and white perspective, because everything is gray, and that's what I've learned in my years. So to answer your question, I believe all those things are possible. I have no idea how in 100 years a relationship between a man and a woman are going to be. I have no idea how that scenario is going to be. And is it possible that everyone reaches a certain, because we talked many years ago about the gorillas in the wild, that conflict resolution, they quickly start having sex with each other.
Right.
And
The
that's
bonobos, yeah.
exact. That's one way of, they just have sex and then they stop killing. They don't kill, they just have sex. So hey,
Make
you know
love,
what?
not war.
Exactly. So if you look at that perspective, I have no idea if in a 50 or 100 years the concept of marriage might be obsolete, because maybe in 100 years the concept of religion might be obsolete, because this whole concept of marriage and monogamy and all these rules and regulations are all heavily religious backed because of the pill you were talking about, which is the biggest opiate of the masses, religion, which is what Nietzsche talks about. But that's besides the point, and I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm saying that is absolutely true, and evidence shows us that. So in 100 years, would there be monogamy? Possibly.
Would you have a problem if there wasn't any monogamy?
This is a beautiful point you bring up.
It's your opinion.
And the answer to your question is how I'm constructed today.
Okay.
I could not handle someone who's in my life, and I'm speaking from a very trying to forward way of thinking. As my brain is constructed today, I can't handle it. Now, in 50 years, would I be able to handle it? I don't know. But could it be that it's gone away? Absolutely, I think. Yeah. And 3 weeks ago I ate meat. Today I don't eat meat. So things could change. No face. No face.
One of the points that you had brought up that I also want to talk about is when you said that men are the primary cheaters. I think that the reason for that may be circumstance. While the male is working, he's out, he's meeting more people, he's making more money.
Circumstance. Okay, so
circumstantial, meaning that
they see more people.
I'm not saying it's correct. I'm saying, how does the circumstance happen? Where did you end up seeing that secondary individual? Mm-hmm. Well, it's because you're out and about conventionally. Mm-hmm. Whereas if the woman is more confined to the home, the mother, then they're not going to have those interactions. They're not going to have those meetings.
So you don't believe
becomes secondary.
So you don't believe that a man's way of thinking is different than a woman's way of thinking as it comes to sexuality?
I'm saying that it is different, but the action and response pattern could effectively and mechanically become the same. We interpret things differently, but does not mean that the response cannot be the same. And I think that as women become more powerful and the 83 cents on the dollar that they make becomes a whole dollar, and we see more women CEOs and we see more men at home, and that the money they're making is the primary money, then it gets funneled to the man, and their circumstances become meeting more people, the possibility to be able to act on impulse or depression, unhappiness, over-happiness, exerting different needs based on hormones, all of these potentials will become actualized over time simply as a result of probability and statistics.
Yes, if you do not believe that a woman is wired differently than a man when it comes to sexuality. All those things you're talking about is putting the woman in the situation where she's now facing this supposed sexual freedom or the ability to have this sexual interaction. Okay, you're saying it's the convenience of now you're alone and you're a CEO and that your man, your secretary is a guy who wants to be on your good side, and so maybe you'll come and have a twirl or whatever. The issue is, and again, I'm not talking about the anomalies and the exceptions to the rule. I'm speaking about in general. Okay, I believe women look at sex differently than men. I do believe a man could love his wife with all his being, okay, and come home and be the best husband in his mind, but at the same time go and have a mistress on the side or go see someone on, get a massage with a happy ending or whatever, and be completely okay with it. I don't think a woman can act that way. I don't think most women cannot go and be with another man if they're in love with and we're talking about if all things being equal. The man being in love with a woman, he's totally okay with having sex with someone else. The woman being in love with the man usually cannot have sex with someone else.
Now, I have a response for that. And I agree with you. I have research to back what you're saying, but then I'm going to go back to my initial concept.
Okay.
Research to back what you're saying, completely true. Fact of the matter is that the way that the system of the man has been designed has been to have the most amount of kids possible. in order for you to have the most amount of kids and be able to get your DNA back to the infant mortality stage of 100,000 years ago, to get your DNA spread as much as possible, you have to have as many mates as possible.
Yes, but I don't think men are thinking that way.
Okay, we're not talking about conscious thought. Back to the concept of what you were saying, the innate type of thinking.
Okay, you're talking innate. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
that's fine.
Men are designed this way. So based on the fact that the design is that way, that supports your argument. However, I'm saying women...
I'm not happy with my argument.
All right. Well, that supports your argument.
Okay.
However, women, they do interpret things differently. And generally speaking, women interpret things not on that level, on that, let's say, sexual exuberant level, where it is anatomical and urge-related. Mm-hmm. There's an initial state, which is emotional compulsion.
Yes.
Women first think of something emotional.
Yes.
That emotional compulsion can end up having the same sexual consequence as the male counterpart.
Sure.
So should they be feeling a certain way, then be put in a position where they have more opportunity, then they have the statistical probability of acting on that opportunity. So then more people, more cheating.
It goes on the concept that we spoke about, the power. You see, this falls back on the physicality. In the old days, in the cave days. I mean, how do you think the ring came about? Do you want to know how the ring came about?
Tell me about it.
Well, what happened was in the old days, this tribe, these cave people, would go steal a female from the other tribe and bring them to the cave and tie a rope around their ankle or arm for them not to be able to escape. And as time went by, that rope became smaller and smaller until it became just a reminder, just a little line or something, a reminder on their finger that basically said, hey, you know what? You're loyal to this situation, and has been interpreted into a ring and all that stuff that goes on. So that goes back to talk about the power concept, the physical power of the male stealing the woman and keeping her there. Okay, and the segues into the sex trafficking thing in Orange County that we'll talk about next time. But the point is, you take that, and because of that situation, it's all about that power ploy in that perspective. And you're saying, now, if it was the other way around, if the women can go steal the men and bring them and keep them, would that? I believe because of how the physically built, it's different. But like I said earlier in this conversation, whatever that could happen, right? So I'm not going to say never.
Well, again, just to finish, historically we have evidence of societies that have been female dominated.
Yes, the Amazon, yes.
Yeah, and also, now to the next topic, we can talk about women in politics. Two of the former big female presidents that we've had recently have either been impeached, resigned, head of South Korea, President Park, and head of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff. Both of them have recently been impeached and kicked out of office. Now, is this a blow to women in politics? Hillary Clinton loses in America. These two are gone. And the replacement, the replacement is a far right-wing candidate in France who is essentially the female embodiment of Trump, who wants to now become a president. So it is shifting.
It's not a matter of it being a blow. I think when you had this is the way I look at it. When you have, you see, Obama becomes president, okay, the first African American, even though he was half African American, it doesn't matter. It was there was the first person that looked like those people that who was an African American. So that young man growing up South Central Los Angeles or in Compton or wherever else in Atlanta, he looked and he said, hey, you know what? There is hope.
I don't
have to be a basketball player or a rapper to accomplish something in my life.
Instead, I could become president.
I could be president. No, that's absolutely true. We make fun of it and we joke. But so that, I believe, gave the president a great deal of passing and a great deal of lack of scrutiny. Even though people think it's the other way around, that he's scrutinized even more because he's the first minority to be in office as far as an African American is concerned. But at the same time, it shed a different light on that situation. I think after he's coming out of office now, a lot of other things are taking place and occurring in regards to things that possibly he might have done. Now, all these things said, okay, I believe when you see a woman even run for president and get so close, or be a president in these countries we're talking about, it gives those girls the hope, you know what I'm saying, that I don't have to be just a mom or someone who is secondary, that, you know what I'm saying, in how society looks at it.
I want to respond to that topic because you bring up some really good points.
Please.
Again, I love how this moves forward. You see, there's causality and then the product of causality.
Cause and effect,
So
yeah.
right, there you go. So effectively speaking, we're looking at, for example, why did Hillary lose, and why did these two women get?
Why did
what-
Hillary lose?
Wait, hold on. In the case of these two women, the South Korean president and the Brazilian president, both of them had political corruption. The South Korean president was giving favors to Hewlett Packard. Sorry, not Hewlett Packard. To Samsung, and that's the biggest company in South Korea. And she was getting some form of kickbacks from them. Okay, my perspective and my answer is I applaud Ambassador Garcia in the EU. I believe that men and women have equal opportunity, they have equal say, and we should evolve. And for those non-believers, I'm here to tell you that women are here to stay, so you better get used to it and welcome it, because it is an evolutionary point that's going to happen, and either way, you can't stop it from happening. So that's my position on women in power.
Appreciate it. As far as monogamy is concerned, the next 100 years, I have no idea if it will come about. I think it would be a very interesting scenario to look at. But then if we're talking about monogamy, then we're talking about relationships and marriage and the whole concept of everything. And I don't think we can even talk about it clearly, simply because we have no idea, like you asked, and my answer was, right now, the way I'm built today, I can't handle it, but maybe in 30 or 40 or 50 years, I could. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll check back with you in 50 years.
Absolutely, we'll see. If I'm still here, that'd be magnificent. I will certainly let you know if I'm willing to be monogamous or not. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.